but I can see what's happening on some of the other time frames. I've got a cloud piercing. Notice here, let's go to the 1 hour chart. There is my, in this case it's a bearish pattern, right? It's red, so I've got the piercing. Now, ideally a piercing should be happening in as a low in a down angle pattern, so that's not going to be a good pairing, right? I need to know that. So if I get some sort of piercing, all right, could it be dark cloud cover? Sure, right? How do I know the difference, right? It's going to be a dark cloud cover since it's a downward angling pattern. Let me just squeeze this into the view here. It's a downward angling pattern. So the prior trend should be bullish, right? And I get my bearish pattern. I know my bearish pattern is the dark cloud cover. What do I know about the mechanics of a dark cloud cover? I should have that first long white candlestick followed by a second long candlestick, but it should be down. Now, even though this is happening at a pretty decent level, this could be a resistance level, I'm not really crazy about the actual confirmation, the actual aesthetic of the pattern. I'm not nuts about it. Okay, I'll just tell you that from my perspective, because really what I want to see is a little bit more excitement here. I don't like how far it pulled back. I want to see a long up candle. Look how it was long and it is up, but it closed so far down here. This actually tells me there was some sentiment shift before the close. That takes away a little bit of the merit of the pattern. I also want to see the second candle open above the high of the previous day, or the previous candle, in this case the 1 hour candle. Not really, right? This wick is higher than the open of the second candle. So the wick of the high on this first candle is actually higher than the open of the second. That's really not what we call a textbook example. Now, I could, if I'm not 100% crazy about the pattern itself, what could make me change my mind or see if there maybe might be some relevance to it regardless? Pivots, right? I could look at some pivot points. Well, this is actually happening just above the R3. So if anything, if I'm going to actually break down, I need to take out the R3, don't I? So this is a pattern that's occurring in the correct market cycle, the correct, it's an uptrend. The prior trend is exactly what I'd want to see this pattern be created within, form within. It's happening at R3, actually just above it. So really to see good confirmation, I'd want to really see a breakdown below R3, wouldn't I? The 123.77 level. Okay? Now, I know inevitably there are going to be questions about what the best pattern is. Okay? No such thing. No such thing. It's the culmination of lots of reasons. Like I said, here we're combining candlesticks and pivots. You can combine candlesticks and psychological levels. You can combine candlesticks and Fibonacci, just like you can combine pivots and Fibonacci. Okay? So it's the combination of these that I think would, and then, you know, further add things like the sentiment of what's happening on, if we were looking at one of the dollar correlated majors or COMDOLs, you know, throwing in the instrument monitor into the picture and looking at the way you're able to interpret what the relative strength across the board is. You know, how is the euro doing against? How is the cable doing against? You know what I mean? What is the US dollar doing right now? So you start adding all these tools together, it just gives you a clearer picture of what the market is doing in terms of its bullish or bearishness, right? That's what we're looking for in the end, and how the market's going to respond at support and resistance levels that we analyze to be important on our charts. Again, there's no guarantee that any of them are going to be important, but we're looking to find a way to narrow that field down to increase the likelihood with using these types of tools. We're looking at ways to increase the likelihood that we can expect further strength or further weakness depending upon these tools. That's the idea behind the analysis. Just to increase the chances that we're looking at the market in the right way. There's no guarantees, but that's what we're looking to do. Increase the likelihood that we've interpreted correctly and using, I think this is an important point, using tools that are psychologically relevant enough that we think there'll be a large amount of opinion that's thinking the same way we are. And that's where that self-fulfilling prophecy comes in, right? Okay, so again, gang, these were hopefully dropping seeds, elevating the discussion. So as we continue to build on these sessions here, and we come to our final session, which will be a long sit-down Saturday session where we'll have all the time in the world to look at the charts together and put all these tools together. What I'm hoping I've done is just kind of give you an idea of some of the mindset you can use behind it, at least the mindset that has served me well, and the mindset that I think you can at least try. What I'm hoping to do here is give you the knowledge to seek out more knowledge. Okay, that's what it's all about. This is one opinion, my opinion, one view, my view, and then what I'm hoping is you can expand from there. But this is just a foundation. So let me again mention that you can email your questions to me at raghee.horner@ibfx.com. I will spend some time to go through some of the questions, but I know for those of you that have hung out here for the few extra minutes that we're here in the room, I thank you for your time, and I appreciate your interest. I'm humbled by it, and I hope that you've learned something new here. One new thing, one new idea can make all the difference. I hope you've learned one new thing, and we can begin to build on that. So I'm going to tackle some questions, but those of you that have to get going, I certainly understand that, and I'll catch you at the next presentation. Don't forget that you have to register for each session individually. All right? So I hope to see you at the next session. All right, so let me go ahead and tackle some of these questions in the meanwhile. For those of you that want to hang out, that's cool. I talked a little bit about the installation process. I'm certainly not tech support. I'm far from an expert at those things, but I showed you the website and how to download it. These were all exe files. They basically put themselves in the correct folder as long as you have not moved or renamed your initial IBFX4 installation. Okay, I do have to add that. So if you put your installation something other than the C drive, make sure you change that during the installation process. And I imagine if you knew enough to move that, you know enough to install these files on your own. Okay, so let me scroll back up to the top of this text window. I don't, as far as when the histogram is near 0, isn't it ranging? I don't presume, or I don't actually use the MACD to gauge the direction of the market. It's short-term momentum. So if in my interpretation, if the histogram is near 0, that's just showing me very little near-term or short-term momentum. Could that then be perceived, if it accumulates for long enough on a particular time frame, could that then be perceived as a lack of direction, or a trendless or a no momentum market? Yes, but that's secondary. I won't use the MACD traditional on its own to do that, but certainly it can confirm what we could determine as a very low volatility market, or a lack of momentum. Certainly, yes. But I have a different tool that I think identifies the trend better than what the MACD would do. And again, I'm then maybe asking the tool to do something it's probably not necessarily designed to do, which is what we always want to be wary of. Okay? A lot of times, by the way, people will use the moving averages themselves at the 12 and the 26, and essentially what you're looking at is when the MACD goes positive, what's really happening in the indicator is that the shorter term moving average, the 12 EMA, is above the longer term, the 26 EMA. And that's signaling, that's indicating this bullish this upward momentum. Okay? For me, it weeds out shorts. I don't want to fight upward momentum.